Hello. It's a deep pleasure to be here to read in front of you and to read with my fellow readers. I've read with Conchetta before. I don't think Holly or Stephen and I have read together, so it's a great honor for me. I'll tell you a bit about my book. That's okay. I wrote this 5 years ago. At the time, I was reading a lot of rock and roll memoirs, and I felt that it had an unfair reputation. They weren't regarded as literature, and I think there were books that I was reading that was maybe pushing the envelope about what could be considered literature. So I was reading things like Richard Hell's I Dreamed I Was a Clean Tramp, Edie Ramone's Lobotomy, and then Zoe Howe and Celeste Bell did a book called Dayglow about polystyrene, who's Celeste's mother. And that was incredible. It was a mix of memoir, found letters, and it portrayed this harrowing but honest picture of mental health because polystyrene, I believe, was schizophrenic, and Celeste was put in a foster system. So all those things were floating in my mind, and I thought that, it's an unfair, bedraggled reputation that, rock and roll in literature can't be elevated. So even though it's written in a low style, I think those things were in my head that, there's no reason why something that's entertaining can't also, I don't know, maybe please a reader, but maybe hit certain, literary check marks. I'm going to read from the beginning of the book, which is about it's just a this scrounger who's just trying to start bands. It's not nothing's really going anywhere, but it starts like this. Moat Hulleran and I were having a rush dinner at Bamboo, work out details of a new music project we wanted to kick off together, a garage group that was going to be called Angel Faces. I had the kotu roti, as I recall, and Moat had some flavorless chicken dish that he instantly regretted ordering. None of the logistics got hammered out about how we would go about putting the group together exactly. There was mostly talk about the ecstasy he had scored from a chemistry student who'd synthesized a batch using ingredients lying around in his kitchen. True story. Moat was undaunted by its dubious origins. He gave some of the drugs to Christie, his man in the kitchen. Moat never paid for anything in cash, and we headed out to come up on the bogus powder. We were standing on the corner of Denison and Wales. I couldn't feel anything and was getting annoyed that we'd been futzing around for the better part of an hour. I didn't do drugs, but Moat had coaxed me into living a little. Mostly I wanted to sleep. If the stuff bothered to work later and I could stay awake, maybe I'd catch Radio Luxembourg at home and the night wouldn't be a total loss. Moat wanted to take more, so we doubled up on the dose and we went to Club 56 on Kensington to cool our heels. Moat was stressing hard about the fizz. He was beginning to realize that we couldn't set foot in Bamboo again if the drugs were spazzed. Christie would be looking to settle up. At 56, with standing room only and a distinct smell of wet, overused towels casting about the room, we ran into Elpenor Khalid Moraine, an old friend from my axe-slinging days in Jippy Japa and the governors of the bank. He was a roadie for both those bands, but was now bartending at 56 pretty regularly. He was looking to make some extra scratch on the side, so I asked him if he wanted to tag along on some shows we were hoping to organize in the city. If the response was good in Toronto, we could follow it up with a mini tour managed on weekends to places like Detroit, Buffalo, and even New York City if we could make it worth our while. We were planning the weekend tour not to work around any hectic schedule per se, but because it meant Moat didn't have to veer from his stomping grounds to go cop. This effectively meant that the final member of the Angels could also be a functional drug addict if they had the hard chops we were looking for. I was hoping for someone with chippies, because they would not overrule me in decisions about the itinerary. It was always going to be a contest between the next gig or pulling over by the side of the road to get their rocks off. You only ever needed one technically gifted player in an outfit anyway. Moat was the individual around whom everyone else coalesced. But seeing as I would be indulging his nastier habits, I needed this final piece of the puzzle to be a ticking clock of a player. The plan was that we would do 3 or 4 originals and plump up the rest of the set with sped up blues covers. Earl Hooker, Boyd Gilmore, maybe some freakbeat numbers for good measure. A fastidious kind of roadie, who doesn't need the money real bad, is usually the least optimal situation in these kinds of cases. And it will all come down to whether they can stand to hear the same tunes day in, day out, whether you butcher them or not. Who else is in the band? Elpenor asked. Moat and me. That's it so far. No manager, no extra cut. Why don't I tech and play drums for you? Save you some hassle. That's easy enough. I thought I had the next 6 months of my life lined up. Things went pear-shaped almost immediately. Alpadone never showed up to rehearsals and he stopped answering his phone. Mope and I went to his ramshackle apartment in Little Tibet, where his sister told us he'd gone to hiding from his ex-girlfriend who was trying to get child support out of him. I didn't even know he had children, but Elf was very cagey about his life before coming out. Mope wanted to find someone else, but I had become incredibly superstitious and was inclined to look at the loss of a band member as a disturbing omen worth complying with. I'm just going to read one more short piece. It jumps ahead a couple of years, and the main character, Jono, he's no longer making music, he's writing books, and he's kind of ingratiated himself with a group of other writers, and they're going on a book tour in New York. I was having a nap in the van, but luckily Elpenor, in the front seat looking over the maps for the next day's drive, poked his head out at the first sign of trouble. I came to after he had barreled out the driver's seat, screaming, "Hey, cocksucker, lay off!" Just as I was opening the slide door, all 195 pounds of his body flew into the van, hurling me backward. I was frantically putting my boots on and managed to get out the door just as Elpenor was getting socked in the face. I clambered out and I headbutted the bouncer in the legs. I managed to uppercut him in the ass a few times. He made coleslaw out of Elpenor and me, and we never did get to Rita the Turtle Club. The last thing I remember was Kill scaling the loud's back and digging her 2-inch kitten heels into his spine. She had a pointed ring on her right hand that had the faintest hint of a jagged edge on its tip. It was a flaw in the design, but Kill had sharpened it with a nail file. The dagger end was about as long as a half of a thumbtack's pin, which she often used to cut up clumpy cocaine with. She was slashing at the back of the bouncer's neck with this ring blade that she called her anti-woo. I was lucky to escape with only a few bruises. The owner had broken up the fight and told us we weren't welcome there. We never saw our booking fee again. We sent Gash, who had been nosing around a Rite Aid, looking to steal some health supplements while the fracas was happening, inside the club to settle accounts in any way he deemed appropriate. He claims he took a shit in the men's sink, picked up a piece of nightstool in his hands, and wrote translassitude all over the mirrors with it. Then he racked up a big tab of Chanticleer cocktails, got loaded, and left the server's entrance without paying. It was ludicrous enough, so we called it a day. Thank you.